I'm going to have Mattea Merta talk about her work in politics. In case you weren't around before, I'll just give you a recap on who she is. She was one of the political staffers for Brad Trost, who ran for Conservative Party leadership as well, which, by the way, there is another Conservative Party leadership race happening right now. Mattea also went to the UN with us last year to the Commission on the Status of Women. She's run for local government in Saskatoon, so she has experience in local government, national government, and in international politics as well.
We'll sneak provincial in there too.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're very, very familiar with that. So there's no better person really to talk to us about politics than Mattea Merta, CLC's Global Policy and Advocacy Director.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is totally outside of the realm of what I usually do. I'm usually behind the scenes, and so to be talking with all you is actually really cool. I love the pro-life movement, especially as young people. I'm going to be a little bit more biased. I believe in multi-generational wisdom that we need to be learning from those who have gone on before us, who are older than us, soak up that wisdom so that we can run into the future with it. But I wanted to take a little bit of a different route with all of you today. I wanted to take you on a little journey through my life, because it not only teaches you tidbits about politics, but it also shows you a path towards a political future or how you can get engaged in many different ways. So I'm going to throw us all the way back to when I was in grade 3. That's the first year that I realized that I actually started to be bullied in school and to be mocked for what I believed. I went to a private Christian school, and yet I was mercilessly mocked for being I was really little. I mean, grade 3. I was mocked for standing up for the Bible or just for correct theology, and that carried on all the way throughout my middle school, high school life. And I remember one day, though, in grade 4, when I was sitting, I'd just come back from recess, and I was sitting at my desk, and I had just had an incident with a bunch of older girls, so catty, and I remember sitting there at my desk and being like, you know what, God? I want you to use my life. I want to be an example. I want to love people well and defend those who are going through a similar situation, who are vulnerable, who don't feel like they can speak up. But I want to be an example with my life to those older than me and younger than me. So all throughout my high school years, that kind of nitpicky bullying continued on. So I was very isolated. And but the one thing that I never stopped doing was speaking the truth and standing up for what I believed in. And I remember in my grade 12 year, it was exactly halfway through my grade 12 year, I was asked for my honest opinion on a paper. And I gave my honest opinion, but according to the teacher, it was the wrong opinion. And so not only did I have a couple of students bullying me in school, I also had a teacher who ended up expressing their disagreement with my beliefs or my opinions publicly. And so they ended up, the school at the time anyway, basically kicked me out. So I was given the choice to whether to bow my knee and to not stand up for what I believed in and continue on in school. This was the ultimatum the school gave me, or to leave the school, or to leave the school and to, follow through with my convictions, to truly stand up for what I believed in. And I chose the latter. I chose to be kicked out of school because I learned very, very early on in life that your convictions are so vital. And that is one thing that has actually not only protected me in politics, but it's actually elevated me and promoted me in politics. I don't use it as like a tool, convictions, but when people see authenticity, especially in young people, when they see conviction-driven young people, that grabs people's attention. And as pro-lifers, young pro-lifers, we have this great opportunity to run this race forward into the future with this amazing message about life and human dignity. We get to run with it, and we want to attract not only our peers, but those who are older and younger than us. And you know what, when I was kicked out of school, I thought that I had failed. I thought, you know what, my life can't be an example anymore. Like, I was booted. So what do I do with this? And so I took a step back and I thought, what am I going to do? So I had kind of looked into different kind of things that I could give my time towards. And I hadn't really been exposed to the pro-life movement at all. And so I had to restart my entire year of grade 12 again. So I got that completed, homeschooled, and I love homeschooling. So shout out to all the homeschoolers on here today. But in finishing that, I then was left with the decision, what do I do for a career? What do I do to make an income and support myself? And so I decided to start taking French lessons so that I could go be a flight attendant. But when I decided that, it was in this exact same time frame as a federal election. Here comes the politics. So I decided to give my life over to my friend's federal campaign. He was running in Saskatoon, not in my own area, my own constituency. It was in a neighboring constituency. And I decided to knock doors. I had no idea what I was doing. I just went, hey, you said you wanted somebody to come volunteer. I'm here. I have time. What can I do? So I discovered the joy of knocking doors and of dropping pamphlets and of talking and engaging with people, hearing what the grassroots really cared about. Because you can hear everything online these days. I mean, our news cycles, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere is throwing information at us of what we should be thinking. But to get on the doorstep and to hear from the people themselves is so unique because it paints a different story. It tells the truth of what is going on in the hearts of the people, which are who the government elected officials are supposed to represent. So after, I don't remember how many months, it was a couple months of just knocking doors all the time, I ended up falling in love with it. So out of that, I realized, oh my gosh, I have a member of parliament in my own riding who I should be helping out because they're also conservative. So the Conservative Party of Canada, this is not a plug-in for them whatsoever. It's just to say they're the only party now in all of Canada, other than the People's Party of Canada. Let me actually phrase that differently. There's two parties now. At the time, there's just the CPC, and they were the only party who was actually supportive of pro-life initiatives. So I went, oh my gosh, I need to go help out my member of parliament. So I split up my time between the two different people running for government. And after the election night had passed, my friend had lost, but the member of parliament, my own member, who was Brad Trost at the time, he had won. So I ended up being asked, because of the amount of effort I'd put in, the time I had sown into his campaign, as well as my friends, I was noticed. And so one of the board members from Brad Trost's election campaign said, hey, would you like to join our political board for the constituency? They're called Electoral District Associations, or EDAs. And I was like, whoa, what the heck is that? And they explained it to me, and they're like, there's different things you can do on there, and it's just a way to be consistently involved throughout the year. Instead of just being involved in an election, you can knock doors throughout the year, you can help us make decisions, you're a youth member, so this would be really cool to hear what the next generation is hearing and feeling. And I said, yeah, that'd be really cool. So I joined the board. It was an open door, an opportunity to have influence. And I went, hey, let's try it out. And so when I got on the board, I ended up getting the great opportunity. I got to do it 2 times to be shipped off to a policy convention. And I had no idea what I was doing yet again. And I honestly just went and observed. And that's something really, really important for you to learn, whether you're in high school or you're in college. I know there's some of you who are joining us who are way past that and you have children, your parents, you're already settled in your career, but to learn the practice of observance instead of always speaking. That's something our generation needs to develop more in our character, especially, is the practice of learning from watching and not just speaking. So I went to this policy convention. I was exposed to a whole new world, and I wanted to learn. And that is so, so key, always keeping an open mind. So after that policy convention, I went back to Saskatoon, had my second meeting with this electoral district association, and I found out that there was this opening with Brad Trust's constituency office for a 2 to 3 month kind of summer internship. And I went, maybe I should apply for that. I'm gonna need a job, but maybe while I'm looking for a job, this is an opportunity to gain some experience and to be exposed to a totally different realm, which kind of scares me, but kind of intrigues me. So why not apply? I applied, somebody else got the job, but then they got offered another job and I got the job. So I got to work with a member of parliament. I was so intrigued. I really didn't know much about politics still. I was trying to learn, and I thought throwing everything that I am into a job would be the most beneficial way to do so. So I'm working in this office, and you know what? I was looking out the window most of the summer, and it was beautiful. I could see people bike riding, people walking, the sun's shining, and I'm here doing basic data entry. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I want to be out there, and I'm plugging in numbers and names and emails, and I did that. But you know what? One of the best pieces of information I can give to you, both for going into politics as well as your life, is to be consistent and to serve the season you are in well. So whether you're in high school right now, be a great student in high school and try to figure out where you want to go in the future. If you're in college, the same principle applies. If you're a mom, the same principle applies. So as I was plugging away, the end of that 3-month period came, and I ended up getting presented with a contract. And I was like, okay. So I took the contract, and I ended up staying with Brad Trost's office for almost 4 years. So take every opportunity that comes to you, almost every opportunity, weigh it with some wisdom and in politics, and learn. Be willing to learn. So I traveled between the constituency of Saskatoon and Saskatchewan and Ottawa. I got to learn a lot on Parliament Hill. One thing you have to be very careful about in politics is being very careful of what you say, who you talk to, what information you're willing to give to other people, even if they're on the same team. And especially for pro-lifers, I think the coolest thing is that we always just speak from a place of truth. And a lot of times in politics, you can get wrapped up in sensationalism, but at all costs, avoid it. So while I was actually working for Brad, I ended up hearing about a local campaign. It was for city council in Saskatoon. And I went, oh my gosh, nobody is challenging the incumbent for my riding. That's wrong. And I looked into the things that he has signed off on, like super high tax increases and red tape and this and that and the other thing. I was like, where are the people willing to run? And I said, okay, I guess I'm running. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to run a campaign. I've worked on a few, and I'm just throwing myself into this. So that's what I did. I worked a full-time job at the Member of Parliament's office, and in the evenings, I would go and knock doors for hours and hours and hours. But you know what? I was consistent, and we got our message out there. And something you will learn in politics is a lot of people play games on you. A lot of political games are played. And I would go and drop thousands of pamphlets in my riding. And then the other team who I was running against, they would send other people to come out and take those pamphlets with my information on it out of people's doors, out of their mailboxes. And it was bizarre. It was a crazy, crazy experience. And yet, I only entered the race with about 2.5 months in there as a time to campaign, and I knew I was going to lose. This is the thing. I knew I was going to lose. But that should never stop you from putting truth into the atmosphere and putting out what you truly want to see as good for your community, because it is about the grassroots that you are fighting for. It's not just about you. It's not about protecting or projecting or trying to promote your own brand. It's about fighting for the people. And that in general, whether it's local, provincial, federal, international politics, it all boils down to the grassroots. And that's something that has been lost on every single level of government. So if you're going to get in politics, remember you are running for and with the people. So I ended up coming up to that point where I lost the election. But you know what? It has grown me in a way to understand not only local politics, but to understand what politicians go through during an election and after an election. And that one experience in and of itself, and many, many others along the line of being in politics, has served me so well and has given me insight so that I can enter into spheres of influence that otherwise, if I didn't have those experiences, I wouldn't be able to speak into. So I've been able to, since then, work on so many different campaigns across Canada. And one of the cool experiences while I was working on Parliament Hill was when my boss, Brad Trost, at the time, ran for the national leadership of the Conservative Party. I didn't volunteer my name, but I was thrown into running the entire volunteer/events coordination for a national campaign. Again, another moment where I had no idea what I was doing, but I said yes. And I put my heart and soul into it. I lasted on about 3 to 4 hours of sleep every night. I would be woken up at 2 or 3 in the morning because somebody all the way in a different time zone in British Columbia needed to get a hold of me for an event we were hosting. And I would have to live like that for a couple months. And it was really brutal and grueling. But through the fire and through those really tough times, I want to warn you, if you haven't been exposed to politics and want to get into it, you're going to have some really, really trying seasons. But going through the fire refines you. So after that experience, I was like, okay, I can handle anything. Anything can come at me now. So at the end of all this, my boss was actually challenged in his nomination, his local nomination. So I got to have a heavy hand in helping him. Unfortunately, he didn't win. There were a lot of political games played, a lot of backstabbing. That's something you will learn in politics. There's a lot of backstabbing that happens. But I want to caution you too, when those moments come, because they will, you have to always keep your heart in the right posture towards the people who do backstab you. It is one of the most difficult things that you can do, but it serves you so much better. And, you know, people say take the high road and others will take the low road. Well, posturing your heart towards people who do hurt you in politics and saying, I forgive you, it actually makes them draw closer to you, and that forgiveness births something new. So being a pro-lifer in politics, no matter what, you will be faced with challenges both from your party as well as from society. But the one thing that I learned was way back when I was in grade 3, grade 4, when I started to develop convictions, that served me really well all my life, actually, all the way through politics, because it's not normal for politicians nowadays to carry a set of beliefs consistently through their careers. And pro-lifers are the ones who do it super well. Not everyone, but the majority of us do. So I ended up, after working with a member of parliament, transitioning into working for a cabinet minister for the province of Saskatchewan, who gave me the opportunity. He's a friend of mine, and he gave me that opportunity because I had shown up back in Saskatoon after working on the Hill, and he said, hey, my CA, the person who ran his entire constituency office, she just left. And I don't know who else is equipped and available and actually knows what goes into this properly. Would you be interested in taking the job? And I went, yeah, but I got that connection with this cabinet minister because I worked on his campaign. So you never know where the seeds that you're sowing through volunteering are going to land in the future for you, what those things are going to grow into. And after that job, I'm going to fast forward to here and now, where I'm working alongside CLC, as Josie had mentioned, as their global policy and advocacy advisor. And I love this job. It's a lot more research, which I really, really appreciate. And I get to dig into issues a whole lot more. I get to work behind the scenes a lot more too. I work with a lot of different government officials. I get to have some cool meetings with people. And it's a way to grow my intellect and challenge myself more. And the one thing that's really cool is that I get to go to the UN and I get to advocate for the pro-life cause for our brothers and sisters in the womb who are constantly targeted by globalists' agenda, by not only the United Nations, but United Nations agencies, as well as different governments. And then I get to go take what I learned from the UN, and I get to go talk to local officials, national officials, whether it's in Canada or in the United States. There's lots of other connections I have where we work with lots of different people across the world to protect life from being targeted. So there is always a place for you in the pro-life movement, but also in politics. So if you're in high school and you have the summer off, I would encourage you to get involved with your local politicians. Give them a call. See if they need volunteers to knock doors for them. Because the one thing that the majority of the public doesn't understand is that politicians always need volunteers. So you can become a valuable resource and therefore have influence with your local politicians by volunteering your time. And so if it's your local member of parliament, let's say, you can contact the local EDA or your member of parliament's office, and they'll direct you to your local district association, and they can plug you in so that you can then bring forward, as you're volunteering, these issues with not only the elected official, but be exposing those ideas to a whole new group of people through volunteering. If you're a mom, you can offer to draw pamphlets with your kids. If you're in university, you can plug into your university campus club, and you can advocate online, create pro-life graphics, share them everywhere. Be Not Afraid is the banner in which Campaign Life Coalition chose to run with the March for Life this year. And you do not have to be afraid. If this is the one thing that I like to tell people, if the other side is allowed to project what they believe so strongly online, in person, in government, in forums, wherever they put their message, you need to be present too. So if you are passionate about the pro-life mission, go and have a presence. You can have a presence at your local city council. Council meetings are almost always public. You can go show up there and advocate for pro-life causes. And pro-life does not just mean abortion. If you're passionate about protecting the elderly and talking about euthanasia, plug into that. The pro-life spectrum is so broad that there is always going to be a place open to you.